Hi, my name is Caroline and this is Design by Caroline. Today we will be taking a closer look at sketch rendering metal. If you have seen my previous tutorial on the office chair by Steelcase, then there might be some repetitions in this video, but there will also be a lot of new stuff. For this tutorial I have prepared this nail gun. It's a weekly design challenge post from a while ago, and I deleted all the metal parts so that we can re-sketch them into place. So to begin with, we're just going to roughly outline the parts that are going to be in metal, and we're going to use a color that is like somewhere in the middle of the spectra for the metal colors that we will use. Usually for metal, a lighter gray will work very well, and we're just gonna put it everywhere, and then we're going to erase the parts that are outside of the lines. It's a bit hard to see right now, but I have blue outlines for the sketch underneath here. We're going to speed this up because this is a very boring process again. Next we will add another layer on top of the base color layer, and we will put it on clipping mask, and we do that of course because then we will stay within the gray area when we put any color on top of it. So we're using the soft airbrush, a quite large soft airbrush, and we're just going to roughly define where the highlights of this metal part would be. And as you can see, we have like a slight break in the middle of the part, and when you have a break in something, you will also have the break in the highlights, of course, and I'm going to show you a bit more later what that exactly means here. So now we are going to add yet another layer as a clipping mask, and we're going to put it underneath the highlight layer. I just want to put a little shadow wherever I feel like a shadow would be on this sketch, and that would be wherever it meets another surface, like the plastic surface, and it would also be wherever, like when it's rounded, where it comes down. For the shadow areas, we're going to use a very dark color, and as I said in the Steelcase chair video, you need to build up a lot of contrast in order to get a very glossy surface, and metal is probably one of the glossiest materials. It's almost like a mirror, and so it reflects the surroundings very much, and that means that the contrast within the material is much higher. So now that I've put down some shadows, we're going to switch over to the highlight layer again, and I'm just gonna take a eraser here, and I'm just gonna erase wherever I think that the shadow area should be coming through a bit more, or the base color, and this way we're just gonna get these like slightly more sharp edges because we used a soft airbrush for the highlights. So I'm just gonna erase my way to some kind of even more glossy surface, because again, when you want to achieve a glossy surface, it's not just contrasting colors, but it's always also when two colors meet each other, how harsh the line is between them, how harsh the border is. And the cleaner this border is between the two different colors, like black and white here, the more gloss you will get. So right now I'm actually just erasing my way to getting a nice and clean sketch render here. always make sure that if you want to get a rounded edge and the effect of a rounded edge, you will have to let the shadow color fade out into the highlight color. So if the edge is rounded, then the line between highlight and shadow in the 1, 2, 3 read needs to be very soft. Now we create another layer, and here I'm going to use a hard airbrush, quite small one, and I'm just gonna add some highlights to this sketch, and these highlights should be really sharp. So here, for example, I know that the edges of this little chamfer are very sharp because I see it on the plastic pads. And so I want to continue the really clean edges all the way down to where it merges into the rest of the body. Now I'm adding some more sharp highlights, and these can literally be like stripes. So they don't have to have a fade out or anything, just make them like stripes and the surface will look glossy. Don't forget that surfaces, and especially glossy surfaces, always reflect a little bit of light from the bottom surface or from what would be the ground floor in this picture. So what I'm doing here is I'm just adding a line of white, and this will give the illusion as though there's something from the bottom reflecting up a little bit of light. Further, when you look at, for example, small power tools, you will see that all the metal parts are slightly rounded. They have a slight chamfer on every edge, because otherwise it would be too sharp, obviously. And so you can create this effect really easily by just adding a highlight and then erasing the slightest bit inside of the line. So erasing a bit too much of the highlight and creating this edge without even having to render out the edge. So usually when you look at pictures of metal, you will see that metal just reflects whatever is around it. So it doesn't really have these natural shadows that we will see in pictures that are taken in a photo studio or something. But that's exactly the kind of shadows we want to create the contrast for the picture, because even though it might be the exactly right thing in this particular shape, it doesn't always look like the right thing when we do a render. And since we have some artistic freedom in this, we can just add some shadows that wouldn't really be there, but that make it all look a bit more refined and gives it a bit more depth. And I almost forgot to do the little valve adapter, or whatever we can call it. I'm going to do this really quick and dirty here. So I'm putting out a few large white highlights, and then with a sharper, smaller brush, I'm just going to define that there is some kind of edgy shape up there, and then a rounder shape to the bottom, and that there is some kind of hole in the other part. Then I'm just going to refine the highlights, make it even sharper and even glossier. And that's how quick you can render just tiny pieces in a picture like this. Whenever I do a rendering, and I can't stress this enough, I put quite a lot of time into the details, and one of the most important details are the split lines, because the split lines, they convey so much about a shape, and they also convey about two materials meeting each other and them not being the same material. Now there's already one split line in there that's coming from the plastic surface here, so you see that there's also already a white line lying there, but wherever you feel like there would be an edge that is coming out a bit, or a break between two materials, just add a darker line and a lighter line next to each other, and you will see that it makes all the difference. So once you've created the white lines, so the highlights on your material, you will have to create the shadow area, so the darkest area between two materials. So it's basically the space in between the materials, and for that use a darker color, or a very dark color in this case, and you try to build up the illusion of the materials not being entirely super tight together, because that's just not feasible in real life. So it makes it look a lot more realistic. You can also use this opportunity to add some more almost outlines that make it even more clear what the shape of this object is, and also that kind of give a sort of gravity to the entire sketch, because when you outline some of the spots that are facing downwards, you will automatically have the feeling of the entire sketch being a bit more grounded. So just a few more highlights, because I can never let things go, and we're done. So this is the final sketch. I really hope you enjoyed this video and that you've learned something new. If so, don't forget to subscribe and click the like button below, and let me know in the comments if you want any material in particular to be brought up in the next video. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye!